Hello and welcome to Elecspo, and the Newcastle United takeover saga is over. Last week was a whirlwind, as Amanda Staveley's Saudi-backed consortium completed a deal to make Newcastle United one of the richest clubs in world football. Mike Ashley is gone, and there were cans aplenty celebrating his departure. This is a new era for the Magpies, with fantasy signings being tipped by all corners of the mainstream media. Let's be honest, Kylian Mbappe is not going to join Newcastle right now. I mean, why would he? But that's not going to stop us dreaming here, so using the Football Manager editor, I've made the takeover happen, and I've sent 6 fantasy players to St James's Park, as well as a world-class manager. Let's dive into this simulation and see who I've given them, and we'll see just how they get on in the Premier League. Let's go. Right, here we are at the start of the simulation, and as you can see, the Newcastle United manager is no longer Steve Bruce. Instead, it is Antonio Conte. He's the most high profile manager out there who's not currently in a job. He has been linked with the Newcastle job, which is quite frankly ridiculous, but I've given him the reins. He's replacing Steve Bruce, and the 6 players I've given him, he has got Gareth Bale from Real Madrid, a player, probably needs to move away from Real Madrid. Kind of big name that would lift the profile of Newcastle. Keylor Navas, big name goalkeeper, going to be out of favour soon at Paris Saint-Germain with Donnarumma arriving. Coutinho coming from Barcelona. Barcelona need all the cash they can get. A similar signing to Gareth Bale. Then we've got Erling Harland, one of the ridiculous names that's been mentioned in The Sun and TalkSport and all. People are just chatting absolute rubbish, to be honest. There's no way Erling Harland is coming to Newcastle United. Then we've got Kalidou Koulibaly, the Napoli centre-back. And finally, Kylian Mbappe, the man who's mentioned the most by the fanciful. Kylian Mbappe is a Newcastle United player. Those are the 6 players who've joined the club. They've got Antonio Conte as well. Just how will they do in the Premier League? This should be really easy for Newcastle. I mean, they've already got an established base of top quality players, which should probably help them attract even better players already. I mean, if Kylian Mbappe was already at Newcastle, I'd be more inclined to join them and play with him rather than Dwight Gale. But let's simulate a year into the future. Let's see how these fantasy Magpies get on in their first year of the PIF era. Just while this is loading, apologies I haven't had any content up since I think it was Wednesday, probably the last video I did. I had a couple of days off last week, returned on the Thursday when all this takeover stuff was kicking off, and with my other job writing for Newcastle website Geordie Boot Boys, I've literally had to throw all my time in at that. I haven't been able to make any videos, so I know some of you saw my post on the community page here, so I'm glad you saw that. Very understanding. But we're back now. We'll be back doing a video every other day, as well as the articles on Geordie Boot Boys if you want to check that out. But back into this simulation, and after the first season, Newcastle have came 11th. 46 points, finishing very top of the bottom half, which I mean in relative terms is good, but considering the players they've signed, the manager they've got, that's not very good at all. They were only 13 points clear of the relegation zone. Let's check what's happened. Zinedine Zidane is now the manager. Antonio Conte has gone. Antonio Conte sacked on the 2nd of February 2021. Yeah, the 2nd of February 2020. Why are these New Years really hard to say? Christ. 2nd of February. Let's see where Newcastle were at that point. They had a rotten start of the season. They were actually in the relegation zone for a couple of weeks. On the 2nd of February, they were beaten by Arsenal 2-0, leaving them in 16th place, teetering just above the relegation zone. Fortunately, since then, Zinedine Zidane came in, another free agent manager, and he is taking Newcastle up to the dizzy heights of 11th. Let's check the schedule out. Assume there's been no progress in the cups either. Carabao Cup, they were beaten by Liverpool in the quarter-finals. As for the FA Cup, beaten in the quarter-finals as well, this time by Chelsea on penalties. It was a strong finish to the season by Newcastle. 3 wins out of their final 4 games, taking them up to 11th. Let's check out who has been the star players. And unsurprisingly, it has been Erling Harland and Kylian Mbappe. Harland getting 21 goals and Mbappe getting himself 19. I'm quite surprised though, the 3rd best player at Newcastle is Jonjo Shelvey. Forget about Navas, Coutinho, all the others. It is Jonjo Shelvey who's been the 3rd best player. Although he could be on his way out with Norwich making a bid. Keylor Navas, done alright. Kalidou Koulibaly, not done quite as well as I would have expected. Who else did we give them? Gareth Bale. Where's Gareth Bale? Gareth Bale barely played, only 5 starts in all competitions, 11 appearances off the bench. That is really, really poor. And then when we get to Philippe Coutinho, he's already been binned off. He played 9 times for Newcastle. And then when we get to Philippe Coutinho, he's already been binned off. He's been loaned out to Manchester City, which I can't understand why. In January, he played 20 times in the first half of the season. All starts, 1 goal, 3 assists, average rating doing alright. And then loaned out to Manchester City. I mean, did Coutinho want to leave? Did Newcastle want rid of him? Maybe Zidane didn't want an ex-Barcelona player. No, because Zidane would have been in charge then. Maybe Conte just didn't like him, but then he played him 20 times. Goodness knows what's going on. Allison Maxwell's another one. I mean, obviously, he's already there. Barely played, 8 starts. Callum Wilson's only started 10 games, but then again, he's competing with Harland and Mbappe now, which is fair enough. And they've even made themselves a signing as well on top of the bigger rivals, bringing in Aaron Ramsey, a player who I did nearly add to this. I mean, he could be quite a sensible, maybe he's attainable signing. I mean, he would be a marquee arrival, but he's not really wanted at Juventus anymore, is he? But after the first year, Newcastle United have came 11th. They've already changed managers, and this isn't going massively well, but things can only get better. Let's simulate another year into the future. Let's see what year 2 brings. Okay, here we are at the end of Season 2, and Newcastle United are dramatically on the rise. They've gone from 11th all the way to 5th in the Premier League. After 2 seasons, they have made it into Europe. They have came 5th, they have qualified for the Europa League, 69 points on the board, 7 shy of Man United in 4th, 4 clear of Tottenham in 6th, who qualified for the Champions League, which is pretty impressive. Let's check Newcastle out. Still managed by Zinedine Zidane. Let's see how they got on in the Cups. Beaten in the FA Cup 5th round by Liverpool. Coutinho back at the club scoring goals. And in the Carabao Cup, they were beaten in the quarterfinals by Watford, which is fairly disappointing. Going to check the transfers out, see what kind of money they have spent. £114 million on new arrivals. Last season, they brought in Aaron Ramsey and Declan Rice. This season, they've brought in Samuel Chukwueze, Harvey Barnes, Edison Alvarez, and then a load of other players who I don't really know. Going out, some of the pretty standard Newcastle players. Christ, they've got rid of a lot of the original squad. But none of the new arrivals have gone quite yet, which is positive. At least Philippe Coutinho's hanging on. Let's check the Newcastle players out, see who was the top player. It was Erling Harland, and followed closely by Kylian Mbappe. Those two are the absolute stars of this team. Keylor Navas is doing well. He was the 4th best player behind Declan Rice. However, the other new arrivals I give them, Coutinho, much better second season, 40 appearances, 9 goals, 10 assists, much better. I don't know why he went to Man City, that was just strange. Kalidou Koulibaly, he's not doing as well as I would have thought. Average rating of a bang on 7, which is pretty solid, but it's not quite elite centre-back levels that I would expect from a man like Kalidou Koulibaly. What about Gareth Bale? Where is Gareth Bale? Has Gareth Bale left? Perhaps Gareth Bale's retired. Let's bang him into the search bar. Gareth Bale. He's retired. 1 season at Newcastle. And that was all he did. 13 appearances, 4 Premier League starts, and 1 goal. And he is already retired. So there were 6 fantasy signings. 1 has already left, and they've already lost the manager. But after 2 seasons, Newcastle are going to be playing in Europe. Kylian Mbappe and Erling Harland the stars, but Erling Harland could be on the way out. Wanted by... who's he wanted by? Wanted by Man United. Erling Harland wearing the number 9 now, replacing Callum Wilson, which is kind of fair enough. I mean, with the goals he's scoring. No offence, Callum. But let's go on to Season 3. We're into Europe. The big names of Harland and Mbappe are impressing. Zinedine Zidane's getting a tune out of them, even if Kalidou Koulibaly's not doing too well and Gareth Bale's already been binned off. But let's simulate into year 3. Let's see if things can get even better for this fantasy Newcastle United team. Okay, here we are at the end of Season 3, and amazingly, Newcastle United have won the Premier League. This has happened way quicker than I ever could have imagined, and they have done it on the final day. Newcastle United getting 82 points, putting them above Man United on 81 and Liverpool on 81. If you look at their fixtures, Arsenal drew 1-1 with Man United. They dropped points on the final day. Liverpool, they drew 2-2 in the Merseyside derby with Everton, also dropping points. Newcastle beat Leeds 4-1 at Ellen Road, and that lifted them above Man United and Liverpool and handed them their first ever Premier League title. Kylian Mbappe with the golden boot, Harland, one of the best players in the division. This is quite frankly ridiculous. The fantasy NUFC signings have delivered the title within 3 seasons. Zinedine Zidane has done it. Even though he wasn't the manager who first appointed, it was Antonio Conte, he's long gone. Zinedine Zidane has been the man to deliver the title for Newcastle United. Let's see how they go on elsewhere. League Cup, they were beaten on penalties by Man United. Europa League, they made it to the semi-finals actually, which was fairly impressive. They were beaten by Sporting on penalties, which is quite sad. FA Cup, they lost to Leeds in the 5th round, but in that final game of the season, they beat Leeds United 4-1. Chukwueze with a goal, Harland with a brace, and Dejan Kulusevski with a goal as well to give Newcastle United the Premier League title. Erling Harland, the best player at the club. Kylian Mbappe no longer the second best player. They've been sandwiched by Swedish star Dejan Kulusevski. Keylor Navas is still doing well, still the number 1. And Coutinho's still getting a fair bit of football. 33 appearances, doing alright, averaging just above a 7, which is okay. Elsewhere, Kalidou Koulibaly, he's playing a lot, but his average is going down. And the 5 original signings are still at the club after 3 years. But it's only really Navas, Mbappe and Harland who are really making a difference. I mean, there's a lot of big players have arrived. I mean, let's go through the team. Who's actually still there? Who's still a Newcastle player? Freddie Woodman, Willock, Maximan, Joelinton out on loan, Jamal Lewis, Kelland Watts, Dubravka, Harry Mankiwa out on loan. That is literally it. Within 3 years, this squad has been completely changed. And it's a squad that is, Christ me voice, like a bloody teenager there. It is a squad that has already won the Premier League title. They're in the Champions League, they are Premier League champions. The fantasy signings of Mbappe and Erling Harland have dragged this team to Premier League glory. But can they do it again in Season 4? Let's go another year into the future. Let's see what Season 4 brings for the Fantasy Saudi Mags. Right, here we are, Season 4, and Newcastle United are no longer Premier League champions. In fact, they aren't even a Champions League club. They've dramatically dropped off. In the space of a year, they've gone from 1st down to 5th. 63 points, 7 shy of the Champions League. Wildly disappointing for the Premier League champions. Zinedine Zidane, still the manager. Let's see if any of our original crop are still there. Kalidou Koulibaly, still centre back, still pretty solid. Keylor Navas, still the number 1, still really good. You got Kylian Mbappe on the left, absolutely incredible. Philippe Coutinho, now a substitute really, 5 starts in the entire season, 30 appearances off the bench. And one man I can't see is Erling Harland. Has Erling Harland been sold? And one man I can't see is Erling Harland. Has Erling Harland been sold? Let's have a little look. We'll go on the outs. They've spent £287 million on transfers. Jesus Christ. But going out is Erling Harland joining Paris Saint-Germain for £113 million. The Saudis doing business with Qatar and allowing Erling Harland to go to Paris Saint-Germain. But more importantly than that, Newcastle have signed a player called Groot. Which for Marvel fans is pretty funny because he's just a dancing little tree who's a little bit useless, but quite cute. And then moody when he turns into a teenager and just playing on his Game Boy. But anyway, Newcastle United down to 5th in the Premier League, but the money they're spending is ridiculous. Just shy of £300 million spent in the summer of 2023-2024. I mean, £87 million there on Achraf Hakimi. What a signing that is. And what a solid first season he's had at St James's Park. I mean, they haven't won the Premier League or anything. Let's check the schedule out, see how they got on in the Champions League, see how they got on in the Cups. We'll focus on the Carabao Cup first. They made it to the quarterfinals where they were beaten by Man United. FA Cup, they made it to the quarterfinals where they were beaten by Chelsea. Champions League, they went quite far, where they made it to the quarterfinals where they were beaten by Real Madrid. Only just though, losing 3-2 on aggregate. The second leg they lost 2-1 away from home. It was a dramatic final 10 minutes, which settled the tie and put Real Madrid through to the semi-finals. At least they kind of did win a little bit of silverware. They won the Community Shield, beating Man United 2-1, even though it's a glorified friendly. But after 4 seasons, Newcastle slightly dropped off after their Premier League title win. And the first of our superstars that we gave them at the start of the simulation has been sold. Erling Harland gone to Paris Saint-Germain, but they've still got Mbappe, they've still got Navas, they've still got Coutinho, and they have still got Kalidou Koulibaly. We're going to simulate one more season of this simulation. Let's go to 2025. Let's see what the 5th and final season brings for the newly rich Newcastle United. Right, here we are for the 5th and final season of this simulation, and Newcastle United have came second in the Premier League. They've reclimbed the table, they're back in the Champions League, and they've even bought in Roberto Firmino for £48.5 million. Last season they ended up paying £401 million on players. They even brought in Phil Foden for £100 million. That might be the record signing now at Newcastle actually. Let's have a little look at their records. Yes, the new record signing, breaking the £92 million spent on Dejan Kulusevski. Phil Foden for £100 million is a Newcastle United player, and in his first season 7 goals, 7 assists. Absolutely wonderful. What a signing that is by Newcastle. Probably replacing Philippe Coutinho. Let's check the players out. Let's see who's been the star. It has been Dejan Kulusevski ahead of Kylian Mbappe. I'm quite surprised to see that Kylian Mbappe hasn't really been the main man at this team. I mean, he's still doing brilliantly, 24 goals. But in some quarters, he's been overshadowed. Let's have a little look at the rest of the squad. You've still got Keylor Navas there, still being the number 1, but he's about to leave, joining Benfica. A solid 5 years at Newcastle. Kalidou Koulibaly playing a bit less football, 33 starts, no appearances off the bench. Still solid at a 7. And it looks like they're the only 3 players remaining. Obviously, Bale retired after the first season. Harland went to Paris Saint-Germain last summer. What about Philippe Coutinho? Has he been sold? Has he retired? He's gone to Lazio. Went to Lazio on a free. Fair enough. Let's check Newcastle out, check their schedule out, see if they've done anything in the Cup. They were in the Europa League this season. League Cup, they made it to the final and they won it. They beat Stoke in the final 3-0, giving Newcastle United their second trophy of the new Saudi Amanda Staveley era. FA Cup, they were beaten straight away by Burnley. As for the Europa League, quite disappointing. They only made it the second round, where they were beaten by Borussia Dortmund in a very tight affair, losing 5-4 on aggregate. But they've done much better in the Premier League. They've been second in the table, and at least they've won another trophy to go with the Premier League title they won in Season 3. So with their fantasy additions of Mbappe and Harland, Newcastle United quickly won the Premier League title. I mean, for Newcastle to win the title in 2 or 3 years, there's no way that's going to happen. There's no way they're going to make these kind of fantasy signings. I gave them 6 out of this world players, like ludicrous signings that Newcastle just aren't going to make. Gave them a world class manager, Antonio Conte, who only managed half a season. Bale didn't do much. Coutinho struggled early on, recovered. Kalidou Koulibaly, pretty solid. Keylor Navas, great number 1 for Newcastle. And Erling Harland and Kylian Mbappe, unsurprisingly, the 2 absolute stars. Favoured personnel, Erling Harland already there. And Kylian Mbappe is a club legend. Get him a statue alongside Alan Shearer, that's what I say. That is going to be the end of this simulation. That is what would happen if Newcastle made these fantasy signings that everyone is saying they're going to sign. What I'm going to do in the next video is I'm going to do this same simulation again, but rather than fantasy signings, I'm going to give them realistic signings. 6 realistic players who I think Newcastle could sign. I'm even going to give them a realistic manager. Let me know in the comments below who you think those signings could be, and I'll see you on Wednesday for that video. But for now, we will leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Newcastle. Not Newcastle, Christ, Elecspo. Christ, let's leave it there. Goodbye.